Hi, everyone. This is Anne O'Connell from OC Publishing. I hope you're having a wonderful day. For those of you who don't know me or aren't familiar with OC Publishing, I am an author, a developmental editor, and partner publishing. I started OC Publishing in 2016 after several years of writing in a variety of areas. I traditionally published my first book in 2010. Crazy that that's more than 10 years ago. Closely followed by self publishing my two novels and a short story collection. And at the time, I thought, wouldn't it be great to take all of the things that I've learned as I've studied and done workshops and webinars on the publishing industry and share my knowledge with others. And so that sort of evolved into um, teaching other people and then to my publishing company. And at the same time, I thought I could simultaneously write my next novel. Fast forward 5 years, and OC Publishing is thankfully flourishing. But the outline for my next novel is kind of languishing in the deep, dark corners of my file drawer, which I'm sure many people can understand. But I love what I'm doing, and today's author journey interview is with an author, one of the very first authors I worked with, who put her faith in me and allowed me to help her get her first book out. Angela Jeffries is the author of The Purple Frog, which we also published in Mi'kmaq. And she's working on a new and exciting project now, but I'm going to let her tell you about that. So today's author journey interview is with Angela Jeffries, and I'm so excited to invite her to join me on the author journey today. Welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, well, thank you very much for including me with your author journey interviews. Thank you.
It's a real pleasure. And like I said, we met, oh goodness, probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And just talk a little bit about how we met and how the Purple Frog evolved.
Well, our meeting and the way the Purple Frog came together is just one of those kismet things. Like it was meant to be, meant to happen. We were both at a women's weekend retreat in rural Nova Scotia, and I came by your table. I was there as a presenter, workshop presenter, and you were there with your books. And we got chatting. And along the way, I noticed that you had children's books on your table as well as your own novels. And so I shared with you a story that came to me for my daughter several years prior to that. And I was a little nervous to tell you the story, but I shared it with you. And at the end of it, you thought, "Oh, you got to get that published. Get that published." I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't expect that, which is interesting because I've been a writer my whole life and started with short stories in English and junior high and high school. And my teachers encouraged me to start a writing career. And of course, life goes in different directions. And now here you are telling me to get that published, and it took me about a year before we really started the process. But it was just the way we met and all came together.
It was
It was meant to be.
very serendipitous. I was really so drawn in by the story, and because my background, like way before I was in PR and publishing, was in early childhood education. So as the years progressed, who knew that this conversation that you and I had would sort of trigger this whole snowball into, I've published several children's books in the last 5 years. But I'm really excited that your work in progress right now is a totally different genre. And again, for people who aren't familiar, Angela, and actually, why don't you talk a little bit about your professional background, and then we can talk about the book that you're going to be working on coming up.
Well, for the past 25 years, and I can't believe I'm saying that number, 25 years, I've been on a very intense spiritual and shamanic pathway, first for my own personal path and growth and learning and understanding, and then eventually started my business. I worked in the corporate world for 20 years. And then one day I said goodbye to that and opened up my shamanic and spiritual teaching and healing business. So I've actually been running that business for, oh my goodness, 15 years now. And I'm constantly evolving and growing. And along the way, actually 5 years ago, as of yesterday, I started my hypnotherapy training. So now I incorporate hypnotherapy,
That's awesome.
and I'm launching a brand new website on Thursday, which is going to be very different from what I have now. I'm super excited because it's going to feature a lot
Yeah,
of different products than I have now, and they're going to be hypnotherapy based, but also incorporating the last 20 years of practice and growth and insight with my spiritual and shamanic background. So essentially, my new website is going to help people to become unstuck.
that's awesome. Well, and I've just put up the new website address, but just so everybody who's watching knows that this website will launch this week, along with a whole, not necessarily a rebranding, but a refocus of everything that you're doing and bringing it all together into one place, giving it one sort of look and feel, and which will also be the place that people can learn more and follow and subscribe to all of your. But we'll reiterate that in a little bit. But just so people know, it launches April 1st, correct?
Correct, April 1st.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the book that you're working on now.
Well, the book that I'm working on right now, the working title is Unstuck Yourself. And it's a teaching memoir. So it's got some instruction as well as sharing my own personal experiences of how I overcame adversity of all sorts of varieties, from living with scarcity to being physically and emotionally abused to being raped to dealing with many toxic relationships in my life, and just trying to figure out who I am. One day I woke up and realized that I was living my life for everybody else. I didn't even know who I was. So it was 25 years ago when I started on my shamanic and spiritual path. That's when I started to really understand everything. And so the book is going to share specific stories and situations that I lived through, and but more importantly, not what I lived through, but how I overcame them, how I learned from them and grew from them to now live a very full, happy life that I have now that I've manifested. So
Mm.
I didn't stay stuck. I found tools and methods and created a lot of my own to get myself unstuck. So I want to share that with people that are stuck in their lives, that you don't have to be stuck. I overcame a lot of adversity and I really changed my life, and everyone else can too. So I'm going to share stories and specific tools and steps that they can take on their own. A lot of it can do on their own. Others steps you might need the help of a qualified therapist of different sorts, but I'll share all that in the book.
And
And I'm super excited.
I'm really excited too. Can you give us an example of a scenario and a tool, the type of tool that would be used to get unstuck in a particular scene?
Well, the
Scenario?
book starts off with asking the question, why me? Why did I have to live through this? Why did all these experiences happen to me? And I asked that question a lot because of everything that I went through.
Mhm.
And then one day I started to put together the pieces. Well, you know what? If this didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened as a result. And if I didn't go there, then I wouldn't have met this person, and yada yada yada. So I realized one day that the entire first 20 years of my life's experience has now helped me with the next, well, now 30 years,
Mhm.
um, to become the teacher healer that I am, to help other people with their experiences, and to manifest the life that I have now.
Mhm.
So basically, you have to change your perspective of what happened in your life. So, just to give you a very brief snapshot, I was born in England, but my parents decided that they wanted to immigrate, and the choices were from Canada or Australia. And they decided on Australia. And then in the middle of the night, one night, my dad woke up in the middle of the night, sat bolt upright, and said, "No, we're going to Canada." So I was a 4-month-old baby, and we moved to Alberta.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was 7, we moved to Nova Scotia. And then after that, my parents got divorced, and then my dad moved to met someone else, moved to South Korea, and then I spent a year with him in South Korea, came back to Canada, finished high school, was going to go to university to become a psychologist, but I wasn't able to get a student loan because my mother wouldn't give me the financial information that I needed because it wasn't my business.
Oh, dear.
And so I ended up in a different career that I wasn't planning on. And of course, there's so much more that happens, but just to give you an idea of how I put it all together, it's like, well, okay, let's backtrack. So first of all, if we went to Australia, you and I wouldn't be here today, and I'd be speaking with a very different
I was
accent.
gonna say I'm very happy. I love
Exactly.
Australia, but I'm happy that you're here.
Thank you. And of course, we lived in Alberta, and I have a lot of connections out west now that are still strong in my life. And then when we moved to Nova Scotia, if we didn't move to Nova Scotia, then my dad wouldn't have met his second wife, and she is the one that's actually responsible for taking them to South Korea.
Okay.
And the difficulties that I had with my mother is what led me to go to South Korea. And when I lived in South Korea, that's where I met Mark, who's my husband today.
Oh, wow.
And we would have never met because he's originally from Europe. And of course, I grew up in Canada. If I didn't end up there because my dad got a job there, because he met this wife, because he divorced my mom, because he moved to and on, we would have never met. And I wouldn't be having the life that I live today and enjoying life as much as I do.
Isn't that wonderful? Well, talk a little bit about the healing modalities that you practice, and that will probably you learn more about in your book that's coming up.
Yes. Well, I do energy healing. So that's with the base or foundation of Reiki, but I go beyond that. I use my intuition as to what's going on in the person's body, the energy field, tapping into the root cause of what the issue is that the person comes to see me for. I also do soul retrieval healing, which is a very old form of shamanic healing, which is to find pieces of our soul that leave when we experience trauma so we can continue to live our daily life with that trauma. I also do hypnotherapy, and hypnotherapy has a lot of applications. One, it's just for fun, just to check to see what past lives were, but on a more serious level, it can help explain a lot of the difficulties that we have in our life with our relationships. Why is that? Is because we have karma from a previous life, or did we agree to a soul contract that we would have these difficulties so that we could each learn a lesson? Help us find out why we deal with specific fears. What do we need to do to move forward? What do we need to release to let go of to help us get over fear of flying or of water or public speaking? And that was one of my first experiences with hypnotherapy, was to get over public speaking. Believe it or not, once upon a time, I was a very shy, quiet girl who hid in the corner and wouldn't open my
Yeah,
mouth.
I
And
know.
now you can't get me to shut up.
Well, and it sounds as though, like you said, there's a lot of overlap, and I know many people who are in health and wellness and healing, have several different areas of training that they use, and it sounds as though the hypnotherapy and the soul retrieval does have a lot of overlap, because
Yes.
sometimes it's you're protecting your subconscious is protecting you. So I just want to say, if anybody is watching and has questions while we're chatting, we've got a few minutes left. If you want to type them in the comments below, I'll watch for them, and I can share them with Angela. But even after we broadcast, if people have questions, we track that, and we'll bring that to Angela's attention. Um, well, I think that's really it's fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I understand you're just in the development process right now. Those of us who are writers and authors understand what goes into that, and some of us are outliners, and some of us are pantsers and plotters. Um, so, talk a little bit about your process that has gotten you to where you are now, ready to jump into writing your first draft?
Oh my goodness, it's been quite an experience and one that I never ever expected. I knew for years I was going to write this book, and I've been wanting to write it. Just life kept happening, and then finally came to a point last year, about February of last year. So just before the pandemic hit, I was doing a coaching session with a friend of mine to try to figure out some things, and out of that coaching session came, I need to sit and write this book. And then 2 weeks later, the pandemic hit, everything went into lockdown, and I had all the time that I needed to write. And my coaching friend said, okay, yes, you wanted to manifest time to write, but did you have to take the whole world with you?
Great, thanks a lot.
It's like, sorry. And I just started writing. I just started writing all the experiences that I had and from different parts of my life, and just wrote them in chunks. And then I knew I would organize them later with exercises to help others to deal with their situations that they're going through as well. And then it came to the point of actually having to create an outline. And that was not easy for me
Not as easy as it looks,
because
right?
I I'm participating in a writer's program. And in this writing program, you're given bite-sized things to work on. And so finally we came to the point of writing an outline. And I thought to myself, oh, well, that should be easy. Okay, I'm going to write about toxic relationships. I'm going to write about rape. I'm going to write about physical abuse. Um, and then I thought to myself, oh my God, that's horrible. How depressing of a
I think
chapter outline would that be? Nobody's going to read this book. Or they may think, okay, well, I didn't experience all of those. I want this one. I want the money issues one. So, but I'm not going to buy a book for one chapter, but there's so much more in the book that would help everybody. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I thought, okay, well, maybe let's see, how could I turn this around? Okay, let's go with the spiritual tools or the methods that I use. So retrieval, hypnotherapy, energy healing, Reiki, crystals. And then I looked at that and I thought, oh my goodness, this is way all over the place, all over the map. And each one of these subjects is a book of their own.
mhm, mhm,
So that's not going to work. So then I really struggled, and I really had to spend a lot of time on this. And what I realized was, yes, I had all these great ideas, I had all this great information, and I have all these great life experiences that will help others. But what was it that I was really wanting to say? What was the main concept or idea I was putting out there? And once I realized that, then it started to come together. But I was still stuck with how to put the outline together. But what I realized was my main concept, main idea was to help people know that we can change our negative beliefs, our negative thought patterns, our negative experiences, all the adversity that we dealt with. It doesn't matter what you've dealt with, you can turn that around. You can heal from it. You can move forward from it in one way or another. And it's using all these different tools and methods that gets you there.
right.
So then I thought, okay, well, let's go with the chakras, the energy system of the body. And I thought, no, that's been done to death. We
Mhm.
don't need another book based on the chakras. So I thought, okay, well, let's go with the 12 houses of astrology. And then I looked at that. And it's like, and each house deals with so many different things. That would have been too confusing. So I scrapped that. And then finally, I just sat quietly and said, how am I going to put this together? And then it came to me. And then it just flowed. And the chapter titles are all questions. Why me? What did I do to deserve this?
Mhm,
How to fix this? That kind of thing.
mhm.
But what was interesting is as I was coming up with the questions of the titles, I realized in looking back at them, you can look at them as negative or positive, like,
Depending on
why
what
me? To
yeah,
why me?
right.
To what did I do to deserve this? To what did I do to deserve this? Because
Yeah,
that's where I went. I went from why me to why not me? It had to be me to what did I do to deserve this? To what did I do to deserve this? Because life is so great now. So
Sometimes
it's to
you have
take you.
to take a step back and quiet, the noise in our head,
Yes,
allow
yes,
things to
exactly.
come in. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happened. Once I just sat quietly and just kind of released it and let it go, then it could flow in.
Mm. And you know what
Yeah.
I love about that approach as well, and, as we all know that as you're writing your draft, that this may all change, but that's part of the fun part of the process. But somebody who's looking at those chapter headings is going to feel it, see it, and read it based on their where they are at in that moment in time, right? Or what they've experienced. And then as they're reading, then there could be a change in that. And I guess that's sort of the whole purpose. Well, I'm really excited about seeing this come to be, and I'm also excited to see how it manifests and where it comes out. So I'm going to be staying tuned. I want to quickly before we wrap up talk a little, one other really exciting project that's come about lately is your Inspiring Women series. Just real brief, a little bit about it and how people can find out more.
I've learned from my own experiencing that a lot of healing and a lot of education comes in the form of storytelling. And since I'm about turning the negative into positive, I started the Inspiring Women series where on a quarterly basis, I have two women come in on a Zoom event to share their experience of overcoming adversity, how they turned the negative into positive, to help other women out there to know that they're not alone and doesn't matter how stuck you are in your situation, there is a way out. And that's what the entire Inspiring Women series is about. And
That's
the information for that event will be on my website as well. It's
bring that up.
via Zoom, so everyone's welcome to come in. There's no fee. You don't have to pre-register. I'm not fishing for email addresses because I'm not going to sell you anything at the end of it.
And I participated, or I was a viewer in the first one, and it is truly inspirational. The guests that Angela has on are amazing women, and you'll get a lot out of it. So I put up the website again this week. Angela will launch her new website, angelajeffries.com, where you'll be able to find out more about her background, more about what's coming up, the services that she offers, and I'm sure she'll keep us all posted on the progress of her new book. So this week, go visit Angela's website and then find out more about Angela. We really appreciate you joining us today, Angela. I could continue chatting with you for another hour, but for now, we'll say goodbye. And again, thank you so much for joining me, and keep us posted. And it's a beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye. Uh, what a great, inspirational interview with Angela. I really enjoyed chatting with her. Again, if you are interested in learning more about Angela, visit her new website at angelajeffries.com. And as always, you can visit OC Publishing at ocpublishing.ca. And if there are past author journey interviews that you've missed or that you did see and you would like to watch again, you can see them on the OC Publishing YouTube channel anytime. So we look forward to our next author journey, and thank you all for watching. And we'll see you soon. But bye for now. Have a happy day.